So it's been a while. Hi. Oh my gosh. Okay, wow. So just the immense joy that I feel sitting down here talking to you guys. Oh my gosh, this is crazy because I've had the last few days I've just been like pissed off and angry, and I'll explain why. But just the fact that I sat down, got everything started. And even right before this, I was like annoyed and kind of frustrated and just like, ugh. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to sit down and I'm going to record because it's time. It's time. As if it's like this, it is time, and this huge momentous thing. No, I was just like, it's time. And I'll explain why I've been just kind of royally pissed the last few days. Because if you can't tell by the way that I sound, and I'll just give you a little hint. How's that? Yeah. So I'm still sick. I took a month. I took a full month. So let's go through this timeline of my perpetual sickness this winter, because that's what it's really been. That's what it's really been. I feel like I've just been perpetually sick this winter. Like, oh my God, it has been super frustrating. And I'm just, at this point, I'm just annoyed and I'm pissed off, frankly. I'm still sick. But before we jump into all of that craziness, all of that emotion, because I've got a lot to share with you guys, there's some life updates. And of course, as always, we've got some wonderful topics to get into. Welcome back to the bedside table. Welcome back. I'm your host, perpetually sick Ellie, I guess. I don't really want to label myself as that, but at this point, that's where I am, because I don't want to put a label on me so the universe keeps sending me sickness. No, I don't know that that's how that works. But yeah, welcome back to the bedside table. And thank you for your patience. Thank you for waiting. If you forgot about me, that's okay. Sometimes I forget about me too. No. If you forgot about me, it's totally cool. We're getting back on it. And I think I'm going to make this kind of like a traditional thing with this podcast, is to take like a break in between every like 9 episodes. I really liked that, because then it's like going into that next, because now we're hitting double digits. This is our first double digit episode. Hey, yo, pat on the back. Oh my God, yay, it's our first double digit episode, and there's no going back from here. We're not in the single digits anymore. Episode 10. Oh my God. Wow, there's a lot of excitement just sitting down, being here, recording again, and thank you. Thank you for being here with me. And I know that I took a month break, but if you're returning after that break, just kind of like besties reuniting again, as if no time has passed at all. Well, welcome back. And thank you so much for your continued support. And again, thank you for your patience. Thank you for your kindness, because it is kind to give someone time to take a break. Not that I have to ask for it, but I think it's cool to have an audience, no matter how big, no matter how small, that is like supportive of your rest. I think that's super important. So I think that's why I'm going to make it like a little tradition for the bedside table to prioritize that rest. So after every like 9 episodes, I take a month for myself. How does that sound? I've been like thinking about this, and it's been bubbling in the brain stew of just like this pause in between like every 10th episode. So before we hit episode 20, I'll be on a break. And I think it's important, because it just, something that's been really difficult for me is prioritizing rest. I literally used to push myself so much when I was younger, to the point where I would end up physically sick and I had to rest. So I think part of the fact that I've been perpetually sick this winter is because I have struggled once again with allowing myself to rest. There's just always something to do. And I like to stay busy. I really do like that aspect about myself. I like being productive. I like feeling like I'm getting things done. But rest can also be very productive in its own way. And if you're someone who struggles with resting, once you do take the time to rest, you know how productive it can be. It can just really kick you back into gear, or it can just be exactly what you needed. And so before I started recording this podcast episode, I took a fat nap. Because I was really tired, and I was like, I could stay up, but you know what? I'm going to take a nap. And I feel better after doing that. So just prioritizing rest is important, but it's just been something I've struggled with my whole life. I'm getting there. I'm getting better about it. So I think I'm going to make it a thing just to reiterate not only to myself, but to you guys as well, how important rest is. And also just kind of as like this little reminder that we don't always have to be consuming something, because I like putting these episodes out every week, and that's not a whole, I don't think that's a whole lot. Like if this was the only thing you were consuming in your entire life, if you were only watching my podcast, oh my God, thank you. No. If you were only watching my podcast, you'd be watching, 45 minutes of content a week. That's very, very low compared to how much content we do consume. But I want to kind of contribute to this feeling of like, we don't always have to be watching something or listening to something, because that's a little bit where I've been in my life. Is just if you've been following my socials, whether it's the bedside table socials or my own socials, they're in the link below if you do want to follow them, or they're in the link. They're in the description below if you do want to follow my socials. But I've taken a break from those as well because I was posting really consistently for the bedside table and just for myself as a creator. I was doing a lot of, I was daily posting on my stories and almost posting every single day, like on the feed, and really just, I was in a creative groove, I really was, but I kind of felt myself really consumed in it. And it's so easy to get consumed in social media nowadays. And not to say that social media in itself is bad and all that, and that's not the kind of conversation I want to get into right now, because that's a big one. But I just personally found myself kind of falling into being consumed by it, and it was really exhausting. So I've taken a step back, and I mean, it just helps me understand. I've talked about in a previous podcast episode, just about feelings, like how I've pushed myself past my limits and I've hit burnout, but that's kind of the only way you learn what is too much for you, is like when you reach that point. Learning your limits is about pushing past them. At least in my experience, you have to push past your limits and hit a period of exhaustion or burnout to understand, okay, that was too much, because it's going to be different with different things. So it's going to be different with like physical exertion. So pushing yourself physically, it's going to be different with like exercise. It's going to be different mentally, and it's going to be different creatively. So there are different limits you have to hit or push past to learn, okay, this was too much. So I've done that quite a few times in my life, got burnout, pushed past my limits, exhausted myself, and I'm sure I'll be doing it again. But that's just kind of a learning experience for me of like, okay, so this was too much involvement in my social media. Gotcha. And I'll keep learning. I'll keep learning where my limits are and keep learning how to prioritize rest and recharging, so I don't necessarily have to hit a point of exhaustion before I'm like, okay, that was too much, because it is exhausting. But my pendulum swings really far one way and then hits a wall and comes back, and probably may not make much sense, but that's another conversation for another day. But welcome back to the bedside table. It's episode 10, and I'm so excited to be here. I just want to start with a few topics or a few things before we get into the topics of this episode. So, as I was saying, I've basically been perpetually sick this winter. It started with COVID, and I think one of my very first podcast episodes, because I started this winter with this podcast too. And I think one of the I don't think it was the first one, but it was either the second or third episode. It was one of the very first episodes. I had COVID while I was recording. So I'm a trooper. I don't let sickness stop me, but I'd like to not be sick at some point. But yeah, so I started with COVID, and then after COVID passed, I felt a little bit better. And then I just thought I had like seasonal allergies. And so I went back to the doctor because I started feeling bad again, just to be sure it wasn't COVID, because I had a friend of mine who caught it twice, who caught it like back to back. And I was like, oh my God. Let's hope that's not the case here. And so she said it was just like RSV symptoms, or that's what was going around. So just respiratory virus. And so she recommended allergy medication. So I started taking allergy medication. That didn't really seem to do much. And then, so I was sick there, and you can hear it in one of my podcast episodes further on where I have like stuffiness and all this because I was sick again. And then I ended up taking this break from the podcast because I got sick. And so when I took the break because I was sick, I didn't want to record while I was sick and I wanted to rest. I ended up losing my voice. So good thing I took the break because can't do a podcast without my voice. So I ended up getting sick, taking the break, announcing that I was taking the break. Shortly after that, I lost my voice. And then for a few days, my voice came back, and for a few days I was like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling better, finally. And then whatever this is, hit me. I ended up with like a low fever, and this was like a week ago. Went to the doctor, and she prescribed me antibiotics and steroids and basically deemed it as a sinus infection. And I've been taking the steroids and the antibiotics for a week now, and I'm still, granted, I feel better than I did, but I'm still just, it's all stuffy up in here. It's all, and I was alternating between allergy medication and decongestant, and I'm just so sick and tired of being sick. I'm so sick. Like, I'm literally just at the point, like I said, where I'm just annoyed and pissed off at just how sick I've been this winter. I'm just tired of it. I'm so tired of it. I'm ready to just feel better again. And I've been resting, at least for the most part. I took a little bit of time off work, but I can't take time off work forever because your girl needs to make money because I have to make a living. It's just, oh my gosh. I'm just pissed. I just want to be healthy. But I'll get there. I know. I freaking hope so. Like, at this point, I'm just like, what the heck? I think, though, really, maybe my body and my mind is telling me, like, okay, seriously, take a freaking break. And I did a little tarot reading for myself the other day with an oracle deck. It was a really pretty deck, and the very first card that I pulled, it was a mind, body, heart card pull. So the first card was mind, and it said take a break. And I was like, well, technically that's what I'm doing. Like, I literally took a break from the podcast. I've been taking a break from other things too, like kind of trying to de-stress and decompress. I've been doing my best to rest, like, and genuinely I've felt like it, but it's not the feeling of like, oh, I need to rest. It's this feeling of like, I want to hole up and like see nobody and do nothing and just be in my own space. And like, I feel so antisocial. And I think that's part of me hitting my limit of rest and going past my limit of rest. Like, I'm physically sick and I'm emotionally like drained to the point where I'm like, I don't want to be around anybody. Like, I'm exhausted to just be around people. And this has nothing to do with anybody else. It's just me. So like, the friends that are wanting to spend time with me, it's like, it's a struggle for me because I'm just like, there are conversations that I do want to have. And, sorry, went off the, yep, yep. I started it and I was like, where are we going? Where are we going with this conversation? I can't even have a conversation with myself. I'm so exhausted. No. But so like, when my friends are trying to talk to me and they're telling me things about their lives, and like, I'm just sitting there and I'm not that I'm ignoring them at all. Not that I'm listening, but I can tell how I can tell that it's hard. And part of that is just because I'm sick and I just haven't really felt well. And it's just been hard for me to be just like here for people right now. And I think there's a reason for it. But it's also it's hard for me to tell people like, hey, I need some space and some time, because I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings and I don't want to disappoint anybody. But that is also part of rest. And your friends aren't going to be disappointed in you for saying, hey, I need some rest, or hey, I appreciate your friendship, but I'm I don't have the energy for conversation right now, and it has nothing to do with you. I just, like, in all ways, I need a break. And so that's how I've been feeling, is just like, I want to hole up and just be away from everyone. It kind of sucks because I'm just like, what the heck? But I think I pushed myself to a point. I pushed myself past a limit, and I hit a breaking point again of this point of exhaustion of like, I just want to do the bare minimum right now. And so the fact that I sat down to record this while feeling all of these feelings, and the fact that I sat down and I immediately felt just this sense of joy, I was like, okay, I think this is maybe what I need to be doing, is just because this is a way for me to still connect with people while not having to put myself out there in a way that's draining. Like, this is me in my bed, in my space of comfort, allowing myself to, like, in a way, hole up and be away from people while also still connecting and speaking to people. So I think this is probably what I need to be doing, because like I said, I sat down and just felt this sense of complete joy. And I think this is really what I've missed. And so I may not be out there socializing as much or doing as much, but I think this is exactly where I need to be. And it's already been almost 20 minutes. There's a lot to talk about, and it's already been almost 20 minutes. I could talk forever. I really could. These podcast episodes could be hours long. We might do some, when I start a Patreon, because I'd love to do that, I might do like, instead of like exclusive content that's like bonus content or like shorter, like an extra episode, I'll just sit down and talk for like hours about everything. Oh, wouldn't that be wild? That'd be wild. I'd really like it though, because I enjoy talking. I really do. I've literally stood in the mirror and talked with myself for, like, I have to step away. That's how, like, I've talked to myself for hours. Like, I'll be like, how long has it been? I'm like, 45 minutes. Doesn't even feel like I've been standing here for that long, but I'll have conversations with myself for a long time where I'll have to be like checking in and like, okay, maybe we've got to step away. Like, I'll look at myself in the mirror and be like, I know you have a lot to say, and I know that you could talk about this forever, but let's go lay down. Like, let's go rest. Let's go take a break. Like, take a break. Literally, I can talk so much about everything. I love it though. It's how I process my thoughts. One of my very first episodes. Oh my gosh. I'm feeling nostalgic. Is this weird? I'm feeling nostalgic for my own podcast episodes. Like, I'm bringing things up and I'm like, oh, I talked about that in the first episode or this episode. I'm like, oh my gosh. And it wasn't that long ago. This is only episode 10, but it's like I'm feeling nostalgia for my own episodes. There's so many feelings happening right now. Okay, quick. I'll go through these quick because it's been almost 20 minutes. All right, so a couple of life updates. If you watched my episode where I talked about the divorce, I was getting a divorce and now I'm not. And that's kind of all I'd like to say about that, because I was vulnerable in sharing that with you guys because that is a big decision and it's a vulnerable thing. And I felt like, okay, that was the time to share it. And I don't regret talking about any of that or sharing that with any of you at all. But I feel like I've got to speak on that because I was transparent about that decision. So I'm going to be transparent about this decision. I was getting divorced and now I'm not. And that's basically all I want to say on it. If I feel like in the future talking a bit more about why I ended up not, or why the decision changed, or why the circumstances changed, I may talk about it in the future. But for now, for those of you who listened and let me be vulnerable by talking about the divorce, well, I'm not getting a divorce now. So that's all I'll say on that. And I'm going back to school. I've made a very intentional decision, and this isn't the first time I've tried to go back to school, but this is the first time that I am truly going to dedicate the time and the effort to it, and it's going to be hard, but it's something that I really want to do because I don't want to be 10 more years down the line trying to make the same kind of decision of like, well, should I go to school? Because then I'll be almost in my 40s. I don't want to be almost in my 40s trying to make a decision that I could be making now. So I'm going back to school, and the goal is to be a school counselor because I just have this pull toward working with youth. And with my very first therapist, I talked about this with her, and she's like, oh, well, yeah, it's your calling. And maybe it is. I don't know. I do. I have this pull to work with youth. And so the goal is to be a school counselor, which I've got to get my master's degree. And that's quite a lengthy amount of time to be in school. But like I said, I don't want to be 10 years down the line when I could have started now. And in 10 years, I'll be there. So things may change along the way, and the goal, might change and that kind of stuff. But I've made a decision. I've set my intentions. I'm going to start moving in that direction, and we're just going to take it one day at a time because that's all I have. I just have the present day. I just have today. So I'm not going to think about, it's going to take me 8 to 10 years to get my master's degree. I'm not going to think about that. I'm just going to say, you know what? This is what I want to do. I'm making the decision. We're going for it. We're doing it. And regardless of whether or not I end up as a school counselor, that is the goal. But if things change along the way, great. Sometimes things don't always end up how we want them to, and that's okay. That's all right. I think the important thing is we just keep going day by day. We keep taking steps. So yeah, I'm going back to school. So life's going to get really busy because I'm also going to be going back to my job full time so I can save up money. So I'm going to be doing full-time work, part-time school, and then once I've got some money saved up, the plan is to drop back down to part-time at work and do full-time school. So life is going to be quite busy soon, but like simple busy, like work, school, podcast. That's my life. and a little bit of stuff in between. But like I think I'm ready for that simplicity. I think I'm ready for just kind of like this simple routine of really honing in on things that feel important right now, because I feel like this is the direction I want to move in, and I just really feel like I've gotten some clarity on a lot of things. And as messy as I feel sometimes, I genuinely feel like, okay, the decisions I'm making now are in a state of clarity and in a state of like, I'm in my wind down stage of rest and introspection and just being with myself. And like, that's what I'm being called to do, is just like bring it on in and really start focusing on the things that matter to me. And so part of that schooling is just part of wanting to go back to school is like, I want to have an impact and I want to make a difference. And I know that I have this pull toward working with youth. And so I want to honor that. I want to honor that inner pull, because it's just, yeah, I want to honor that. Again, like I said, I could literally keep going and keep talking about this forever, but okay. And last little life update. If you don't know, I drive a moped. That's my main source of transportation. I don't have a car. I have a little pink moped. She's been in the shop for almost 3 weeks now. Luckily, I've had some friends who've been really helpful in getting me around, and thank you so much. I'm very grateful. But yeah, my moped's in the shop, and she should be back out really soon, but it's been weird not having her. I've had her for almost 2 years now, so not having her is like, It also just sucks too, not being able to get around, having to rely on other people to get you around. Not to say that I'm very grateful that I've had the help that I've had, but just not having your own transportation sucks. So hopefully I'll have her back soon, very soon, sooner rather than later, because I miss her. I miss my little pink moped. I miss her. Okay. Well, again, welcome back. Episode 10, starting off strong with a 25-minute intro. But hey, it's been a while, and I wanted to catch up, and I hope you don't mind. I mean, if you're here, you must not mind, but let's get into today's topics, because there's some good ones. And there are always good ones, but there's some good ones, and I know you'll find some value in them. So let's get into it.
You got me feeling a vibe. You got me feeling a vibe.
Back with the pineapple pen as usual. Yay. Oh, just a quick little thing. If you guys didn't see I think it was the end of one of my episodes, I believe. So if you didn't watch all the way till the end to one of them, this is my friend CJ's art. This is his niche. This is his thing. He's a very artistic person in general, but like he's found his thing. He's made so many of these since he's given these to me, which these were not given to me very long ago, but I wanted to put them up because last time I just kind of like showed them and they were sitting on the bed. I put them up for this episode so they're here the whole time because I'm so proud of him. And anytime that he sends me more of these that he's doing, he's refining his craft and he's getting better and better at making these. They're so stinking cool. I love them. It's spray paint and it's awesome. He's really found his groove, and I hope he continues with it. I think that he will because he's been knocking it out of the park with them, but I just wanted to show him off. Aren't they so cool? They're so stinking cool. So stinking cool. Oh, oopsies. It's fine. I had to remove them from the wall and move them down so the tape is not as secure as it was. But anyway, my friend CJ makes some really cool art, just so you guys know. All right. First topic of today, or this evening.
Dorothy's joining us. Hi, baby girl. Yes, it's podcast time, baby. I love you, my sweet pea.
Okay, so you do have an effect on people. Oh, let's break this down. Let's get into this. You do have an effect on people. For a long time, especially growing up, I was very numb. I was very numb to people around me. I was very numb to other people like showing me affection. I was very numb to friends being there for me. And it wasn't because I was trying to intentionally deflect. I wasn't trying to intentionally deflect. I think I just had so much that I was dealing with internally back then that it was really hard to even try and digest anything from anybody else. And I wasn't necessarily aware. I didn't really become aware of the effect that me and my emotions and just me being around people, my presence. I wasn't really aware of that having an effect on people, that the presence, what I brought into a room, the kind of energy that I brought into a room. I didn't really become aware of that affecting people until I was in my early 20s. And this was around the time that I went through a psychotic break. This was around the time that I really started learning about myself spiritually. This was around the time that a lot of things were shifting for me. And one of the things I think that really initiated a major turning point in my life was becoming aware of the fact that I do have an effect on people. Whether I want to or not, I do. And for me, I was especially in my early 20s, I was in this state of mind of, I don't really care. I reached a point where I was like, okay, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about myself. I don't give a shit about anybody else. I don't care what happens, really. I'm just going with the flow at this point. And not in a good way of I'm going with the flow of life and I'm flowing. No, it was just I don't give a shit what happens. Whatever happens, happens, and I could care less. But just because I had this mindset of I don't care, that's a really easy way to kind of excuse yourself. It's an easy way to be let me try and give an example. It's when you don't give a shit about who you are, or you don't care about yourself, it's hard for you to understand that the things that you say and do have an impact. And I learned this because I was in this state of like, yeah, I don't give a shit. I don't care. And like I said, when I was younger and growing up, I was just numb. I was numb to a lot of things. And then once I reached this point in my 20s where it was just like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't care. It's so easy when you hit this period of like, I don't care. When you hit this period of I don't care, it's very easy to start to believe that the things that you say and do don't affect people. Because if you yourself don't care what you say and do, or what happens to you, or what's going on in your life, if you don't care, you're not really going to be paying attention to what you say and do, how that affects other people. Am I making sense, or am I just kind of saying the same things over and over again? Okay, we're getting somewhere, don't worry. But I noticed, I became aware of my effect on people when I started to understand that when I'm sad, and when I'm sad and I'm projecting that, it makes other people feel bad. That sounds like a really simple thing to say, of just like, well, when I feel bad and I project it onto other people, it makes other people feel bad. But it was kind of this, because growing up, when I was like really sad and stuff, it spilled out of me anyway, because I was numb to a lot of things. I was numb to a lot of my own emotions, and I was coping with it. I was young, first of all. Didn't know how to cope with what I was coping with. So, like I had a particular friend I remember that I would just call and like cry on the phone with. Like I would just bawl my eyes out. And that would be it. I would just cry. And we'd talk about like the painful things that we were going through and all this. So like I had friends that I could talk to about things, but it wasn't like any of us really knew what the fuck to do about it. I mean, we're kids. And so I didn't have much emotional guidance. I was kind of always just bringing a particular presence into my friends' lives of just kind of like sadness and numbness, but it wasn't something that was like intentional. But as an adult, it's my responsibility to learn. It's my responsibility to cultivate an awareness of how I affect people. Because as a child, unfortunately, I didn't have much guidance, and I didn't have much of an adult in my life to teach me how to navigate my emotions, and to teach me how my emotions have an effect in the world, and what to do about them, and basically that. I didn't have hardly any guidance with navigating and regulating myself emotionally. But as an adult, it's like, unfortunately, even if you don't have that guidance when you're growing up, when you become an adult, you are now left with the responsibility to be that adult, to be the adult who guides you. And the great thing about living in today's world is that we have so many resources. We have so many things that we have so much knowledge and resources at our fingertips to be able to learn. And it doesn't make it easy. And becoming aware of the effect you have on people, that also doesn't mean like, now that I'm aware that I have an effect on people, now I'm going to start making changes. I don't think it necessarily is as easy as that, because in my experience, it's not. When I became aware that my sadness was making other people feel bad, or that I was a negative presence in a room, I didn't like that. I also didn't like the fact that I'd reached a point where it was like, I had reached a point where I just did not care, and that's never a place I want to go back to again. But I think the tough thing is like, caring about things and caring about people, like that is hard, because when you start giving a shit about things, it gets real. Because then it's like, then you can get hurt. Then when you start to understand that what you say and do can hurt people, you're inviting in the same kind of thing. You're inviting in like, okay, well now I'm aware that my actions and my words can have an impact on somebody and can change how somebody feels and can make someone feel a particular way. And now that I'm aware of that, it means that someone else's words and actions can also have an effect on me. So when you open up this awareness within yourself, and when you start to understand your effect on people, things start to affect you as well. Because, I mean, that's just life, honey. And it's crazy because I've thought about it and I'm like, I could go back to numbing. And to an extent, I think there are some things I do where I still do that sometimes. But I have this awareness now. So, but I don't ever want to go back to being in a position where it's like, I don't care about myself. I don't care about the direction my life is moving in. I don't care about the people around me. I don't care about the effect that I have on people. I don't care if I hurt your feelings. I don't care about blah, blah, blah. Like, I can't be there again. Because that's a really dangerous place to be in. Because if you just don't give a shit, I mean, that's a really dangerous place to be in. Because then you find yourself in situations that are just like, I've found myself in some risky situations because I've been in that mindset of just, I don't care. So I'd rather care, and I'd rather care a whole heck of a lot, and I'd rather risk feeling hurt, and I'd rather risk feeling everything to the degree that I feel it, because I'm a big feeler. I'd rather risk feeling everything as intensely as I do than going back to a state of having to numb myself and just not giving a shit. Like, I have to care. But yeah, I kind of just want to put it out there of like reminding you that maybe those of you who feel like, if you feel like, you don't matter, it's so easy to think that we don't matter, because here's the thing. When we feel like we don't have an effect on people, and this is just from my personal experience, when we feel like, when we're coming from a place of like, I don't matter enough to have an effect on anyone. Like, how can what I say make you feel any kind of way? It's just me. Like, it's just my words. How does that have any effect on you? I'm not significant enough for this to have an effect on you. So why are you behaving this way? Like, why are you having a reaction to what I say? Like, my words are so small. My words literally mean nothing because I mean nothing. Like, that's the place I was in for a long time. Specifically growing up, that's the mindset it was for me, of just like, I'm so insignificant. I don't matter enough at all for my words or my actions to have any kind of impact on anybody else. So that's where I came from. And I learned in my early 20s, when I became aware that, oh shit, I actually do have an effect on people. Like, my presence actually does affect people. What I say and do actually does affect people, even if I feel insignificant. Even if I feel like I don't matter, that does not mean that what I say and do doesn't matter to other people. And that works in like both ways. So if you hurt somebody, if you say something or do something that hurts somebody and you're aware of that, it's like, even if you yourself feel insignificant or feel like you don't matter, if you can become aware of like, oh, you hurt somebody with your words and your actions, it's like you do matter and you do have an effect on people, but it also works the other way too. And so I became aware of my negative effect. And then I started also becoming aware of like the good that I could do for people, how my presence could be good for people, how my presence could make people feel welcome, how I could give good advice, or how I could say something that made someone feel better. And becoming aware of the fact that like, oh, I can hurt somebody and I can make someone feel good. Like becoming aware of both of those things for me was like that's what shifted for me of like, it stirred up in me like, okay, I feel like I don't matter, but clearly I matter enough to have an impact with my words and my actions. So clearly I matter in some sense, because if I didn't matter at all, and what I believed was, again, like I said, I'm so insignificant and I don't mean anything. I don't mean enough for what I say and do to have an effect on you. But once I started becoming aware, like, oh, what I say and do has an effect. My presence does have an effect. That in turn helped me learn, like, I think I do matter in a funny way. That kind of helped me understand and start caring. It helped me start caring once I realized like, oh, okay, I can make people feel a certain way. And this isn't me saying like people's reactions and how they feel is your responsibility. It's not, but we do have a part to play sometimes. And I think the energy that we bring into a room, and I think the things that we say and we do, if we just say them mindlessly, or if we just do things mindlessly, or if we're kind of where I was at, if you just feel so numb, or if you feel worthless or like insignificant, it's going to be hard for you, or at least from my experience, it's going to be hard to feel like what you say and do can have any kind of effect or impact, because it's like, well, I don't matter. So why should what I say and do matter? Why should what I say and do, is that correct? Why should what I say and do matter? But, yeah. So I just kind of want to put it out there and this message isn't going to be for everyone, this particular part, but if you feel like you don't matter, and if you feel really insignificant, you do, first of all, you do matter. It doesn't take anything to matter. You exist, and that's it. You don't have to do anything to be significant. This is something that I've reiterated a lot with myself, and it's just something that's resonated with me, because there's nothing you have to do. You don't have to accomplish anything great. You don't have to be famous. You don't have to be this big person. Like, you don't have to be in the limelight. You don't have to make anything awesome. Like, that's not to say that you won't, and that's not to say that you can't. Like, shoot for the stars, yes. Go for your dreams, like, go for your goals, yes. But you don't have to achieve great things to matter in this world. And I think the kind of society we live in kind of pushes a different narrative of wealth and status, and you've got to do more, and hustle, and like all this, and that's all great and dandy, but strip that all away. And I just want you to understand that just you alone, just you, who you are right now, regardless of what you've done, what you've been through, who you've been in the past, regardless of that, despite all of that, you're here, and you're here now, and you are who you are now because of all of the things that you've gone through, and all of the things that you've accomplished, and all of the things you've failed at, and all the good and the bad. And you, right now, matter as is. Nothing else. You don't have to bring anything extra to the table, to the bedside table. Just us right now is fine and enough, and always will be. So if you're feeling a little worthless or like you don't matter, I hear you and I understand. But you matter to me just as you are. And yeah, I love you. Okay, moving on.
You got me feeling apart. Like how could I not think of you? You got me feeling some type of way. From the sunsets to early days, and I can't seem to keep my mind.
So I think the next little bit that I'll talk about, and I think it ties in perfectly with how I kind of ended and what we were talking about. I wrote down, it's not about who you've been. It's about who you want to be. So in terms of what I just said, it's not about where you've come from, or it's not about the things that you have done in the past, the mistakes that you've made, the things that you've achieved or failed at. So it's not about who you've been, it's about who you want to be. And I've had this conversation in different ways with myself over the years, multiple times. And I'll try and talk about it how I've talked about it with myself. It's kind of like, if you tell a lie, are you a liar? Right? If you cheat on your partner, are you a cheater? If you steal or go to jail for something, for a crime, if you commit a crime, are you a criminal? It's like these labels, right? Of just, if you do this thing, now you're this thing. But are you? Are you that thing? So if you lie, are you a liar? Like, seriously, ask yourself these questions. Because they're interesting questions to ask, because I think people are going to have different answers. I have answers, and that's what I'll talk about today. But I think I'm smiling because I'm thinking about all the different ways that this could be talked about. Like, I'm thinking about all the different answers that people could have of just like what people think about this. Like, I genuinely want to know. It's like, if you do something, are you deemed to carry a label forever because of that thing? And I think society is really good at this, because we put people in jail and we call them criminals, you know. If you murder somebody, it's like, oh, you're a murderer, right? Sensitive topic, but if you do something sexual with a child, you're a pedophile. It's like, we have labels for literally everything, good and bad, you know, good and bad. I think maybe you should think about, I don't know, let's just kind of like do a little thing here. What are the labels that you've given yourself? Because as I'm sitting here talking about this, I'm thinking of like, what are the labels that I've given myself? Because I think it's important to have this awareness of like, because I think it's a really good step, or like maybe it's an easier way to understand like what we think about ourselves. Because I think sometimes it's hard to just sit and be like, what do I think about myself? Well, I think I'm pretty funny, and I think sometimes I procrastinate, or maybe I'm a bit of a slacker, and like, oh, see, there's one. If you procrastinate, are you a slacker? There are so many things, so many ways that this could go. Just like, but it's also like, okay, I cook food for myself. Am I a chef? Let's think about this for a second. I just had a thought. Let's think about this for a second. What label are you more likely to believe yourself to have? Hold on. This is interesting, because what I've been becoming aware of within the past couple of years, especially with therapy, is that I'm very like negative prone. So negativity and hurtful things like permeate me a lot more than like positive, happy things. And I don't think that's just a me thing. I think that's maybe a human thing. Maybe. I think I also am just sensitive specifically to negative things for particular reasons. But I was just thinking about that, and I'm like, how easy is it for us to believe about ourselves? Like, if we lie, how easy is it for us to be like, oh, we're liars? But if we do something like, let's say we paint a picture. Let's say we paint a picture, and it's just, I mean, we're not what? That's crazy. I was just about to say we're not painters. But if I lie, I'm a liar. Hold on. I'm figuring something out with myself, like right now. Right now, live on the bedside table. No. Ellie's figuring things out. No. But honestly, though, that's such an interesting thing. Like, I'm just picking up on something that my brain is doing, and I'm here, just happened to catch it on my episode of this kind of stirred something up in my mind. So what I'm understanding about my brain right now is that when I say like, oh, I've lied, so I'm a liar, that comes out of my mouth so easily, and I can feel it of just like, yeah, I believe that. Yeah. But if literally I said, let's say I paint a picture, and I was literally going to finish the sentence with, but we're not painters. Well, why the fuck not? Brain? Huh? So if I lie, I'm a liar, but if I paint a picture, I'm not a painter? And I guess that's kind of a thing. I know that there are, being a liar and being a painter, they are very kind of different things, because there are like painters, there are professional painters and famous painters. We don't really hear about like, well, professional liars. What are those? Like con artists? Salesmen? There are professional liars out here every damn day. What you talking about? No, but I feel like there is a bit of a disconnect. So let me try and find something that's a little bit closer together. I don't know. Crap. I can't think of something, but okay, anyway. That's interesting. That's an interesting thought. But okay. So ask yourself those questions though. Like, what kind of labels do you hold for yourself? And as you think about that, because again, I'll just ask the questions. If you lie, are you a liar? If you cheat, are you a cheater? If you commit a crime, are you a criminal? And to an extent, for myself, I would say, like, for me answering these questions, I would say, to an extent, yes, if I lie, I'm a liar. But the question for me then becomes, how long am I a liar for? How long do I hold on to this label? How long is this label accurate? Because let's say if you lie, you're a liar. So that would make all of us liars. We're all liars then. Because I know for a fact, I don't have to meet everybody. I don't have to meet everyone in the world to know that we've all told a lie. At some point, no matter how small, we've all told a lie, and I can pretty much guarantee we've all told a lie more than once. Pretty much guarantee that no human being in this world has only lied one time in their life. I can almost guarantee that we've all lied more than once. And we've all probably made mistakes more than once a lot of the time. How many of us are like carrying these labels then of like being a liar, being a cheater? And I think labels is also a societal thing too, because we do that again with like criminals and like news stories and things like that. Like, we do put labels on people. And so I think the kind of society we live in is just, it's also about labels. Okay, I'm losing my train of thought because I have to take a quick break. I'm like trying to stay focused, but I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. Got to take a quick break, and then we'll finish up this conversation, this wonderful conversation. Okay, BRB.
It comes and it goes, but it's never gone. How can I go on without you? Please don't let me. Please don't let me. You got me feeling a fight. You got me feeling a fight. Like, how could I not think?
All right, I'm back. Okay, back to labels. But okay, so sorry. Let me get situated. Okay, so, all right. Okay, now I'm good. Now I'm good. Okay, back in the headspace of, so labels, right? It's funny. I had this conversation with myself years ago when I was a full-time pet sitter for a nurse, and I would just stand in a house and pretend like I was talking to an audience, which is so funny because here I am talking to all of you. But yeah, I would legitimately just stand up and have conversations with my quote unquote audience and say things that I wanted to say, like literally do it like lecture style. Kind of how I'm doing. This is podcast style, but technically this is like lecture style. I'm basically like, teaching a lecture, kind of. That was kind of, yeah. Anyway, that's how I would do it. Blah, blah. Anyway, I had this conversation about labels, and it was just like, what are the labels that I'm giving myself? Because if I say to myself, like, okay, I've lied, I'm a liar. Where do I go from there? Do I want to be a liar? I think that is the question that inevitably sparks how long you hold on to the label. Because we can, all of us have lied, but does that make us all liars? To an extent, sure. If you just want to based off of, if you tell a lie, you're a liar, well, then we're all liars, right? I think a better question to ask is, do you want to be? Do you want to be a liar? So whenever you come across a label that you have for yourself, I think a really good way of kind of digging a bit deeper, instead of just ending it like, oh, well, yeah, I am this thing. Ask yourself, do you want to be that thing? Because that's where kind of like you start thinking like, well, do I? So we'll just go with that easy label, or an easier label to talk about. Are you a liar? Have you told a lie? Have I told a lie? Yes. Does that make me a liar? Technically, yes. Do I want to be a liar? And my answer is no. So how do I not be a liar? Well, I tell the truth. I tell the truth. And it's hard sometimes to tell the truth. It's hard to be honest. But I think once you start asking yourself the right question, once you really start asking yourself, do I want to be this thing? You can start to figure out, well, what do I do? What can I do to either be the thing or not be the thing? And it takes some thinking. And I think it takes some deep diving into ourselves and understanding, first of all, why we've made the choices we've made. And it opens up a dialogue when you just ask yourself, okay, so you've lied. And okay, you're a liar, I guess. But do you want to be one? And it's got to come from a place of like real curiosity, of just figuring out what you want for yourself. Figuring out the kind of labels you want to hold for yourself, if any at all. Cool. I like it. That was a little short, but it's because this episode is almost an hour long now. And it's gonna be an hour long. But it's okay. It's episode 10. We're back, baby. And I had a lot to say. And I think it's cool that this has been my longest episode yet. I think this is surpassing the Valentine's episode. But yeah. So really kind of like ask yourself what labels you have for yourself. And maybe I'll explore that a bit deeper in another episode, if you guys want me to, because I like this topic. I can talk a lot on this topic, but since the episode is coming close to 60 minutes, oh my goodness. Thank you guys so much for being here. I had a lot of fun, and I feel like this is what I'm meant to be doing right now, is just really honing in on the things that are important to me right now. So priorities, focusing on my priorities and moving toward, I guess, a simple routine. Oh, my sinuses and the mucus in my face is starting to come up. So cool. I'm glad that we're back. I'm glad that we're back together again, guys. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching episode 10. Hold on. Let me put my cup down. 10 of the bedside table. I'm so happy to be back. I'm so happy to be back. Oh, I'm telling you, yes, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But I am grateful that I took the break. And again, I do think I'm going to make it a tradition before we get to like the next 10th episode. Just take a break. Just to also just kind of set an example that it's cool. It's cool to take a break from not only the hustle and bustle of life and the creative process, and like it's all right to take a break from that, but also just to remind my audience, like, it's cool to take a break from consumption too. Just take some time to breathe, to rest, to relax. But thank you for your continued support. If you're coming back after my break, thank you. Hi, welcome back. And I'm excited for these next 9 episodes. Oh, this was so good. All right. Well, I love you. And again, you matter just as you are right now. And really think about like the labels that you have for yourself and ask yourself genuinely, do you want to be those things? And I've been your host, Perpetually Sick Ellie. Hopefully I'll be perpetually healthy soon. That's the goal. All right, guys, I will see you in the next episode of the Bedside Timeout. I'm so happy to be back. So happy. All right. Good night.